hero who gives all of us. First stitch opened 15 years ago.
At the beginning of the movie, we are told, through a background voice, that the world used to be bright and full of happiness and hope before the breakers descended upon the earth. When this darkness arrived, its goal was singular: to destroy everything good, including humanity. Initially, men stepped forward to fight this evil. They fought bravely but ultimately lost. Therefore, mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters took up the fight. They donned the Kodiak uniform and made sure this was a war they couldn't lose. After this narration, we see a woman named Milla, who is the commander of an army of women. Milla orders her soldiers to throw flare lights. Wherever these flare lights land, menacing creatures called breakers emerge from the ground, screaming and charging towards Milla and her army. Despite being women, they show no fear and bravely confront the creatures. We then hear another voice in the background, explaining that the breakers can come from anywhere, sometimes from beneath the ground, sometimes from space. We now see that Luke Evans is telling all of this to his daughter Willa. Luke tells Willa that when the first rift opened, 15 years ago, this ancient cycle began again. Milla, while braiding her daughter's hair, tells her that this island used to have many kinds of flowers, like red, yellow, and purple, which made the island look very beautiful. Soon, a panic situation arises when the remaining humans are ordered to return to their homes immediately after a breaker attack. Inside the house, Milla gives Willa a birthday gift, which turns out to be a woven hat. Luke also gives his daughter a small teddy bear that looks like a dog, but Willa calls it a bear. Suddenly, a soldier knocks on the door and informs Milla about the breaker attack. Luke and Milla tell Willa to pack only essential supplies. Luke tells Milla he can't understand how the breakers escaped when Milla had closed the rift. Milla explains that when one gap is closed, another opens. Now, they can't stop the breakers anymore because the 8th Battalion has been wiped out fighting them. There is chaos everywhere and the women's forces begin relocating innocent people to safe places to save their lives. Milla tells Luke that she has to go to lead the convoy. After this, she leaves. Luke and Willa get into a truck with other troubled people and head towards Mercy Way. On the way, a breaker attack breaks out, terrifying the people in the truck, while the women's army bravely fights the breakers outside. During the chaos, a breaker lurks around the truck, terrifying the people sitting inside. However, the creature leaves without harming anyone. But a short time later, another breaker kills a survivor with its powerful horn, causing panic to break out inside the truck. Willa and Luke hide under a truck, while the creatures hunt humans outside. 2 other children take shelter under the truck with Willa, but a breaker spots them and drags them out, killing them mercilessly. A breaker sneaks around the truck, but just in time, Milla arrives and kills it, saving her daughter and husband just in time. Milla tells all the remaining survivors to get off the road and escape into the woods. During the breaker attack, one of the men is attacked by a breaker. In the woods, Milla asks her husband to leave for Mercy Way with Willa and tells them that she has to stay there as the people desperately need her. Meanwhile, the hybrid breakers make their presence felt in the woods, prompting Milla to hurry. Luke grabs his daughter and heads off in a different direction through the forest, leaving the others behind. On the other hand, the man becomes infected. Not long after, he turns into a breaker, prompting the lady soldier to blow his head off instantly. Luke arrives at a spot where he used to come with Milla for fishing, before Willa was born. There, he had a boat hidden. He and Willa quickly begin undoing the rope. Just then, a scream echoes through the forest, drawing both Willa's and Luke's attention. However, they ignore it and continue untying the rope. Just then, a restless man arrives and asks Luke if the boat belongs to him. Luke says the boat isn't his and that he is just looking for food in it. However, the man immediately realizes Luke is lying and pulls out a gun, which frightens Luke and Willa. Scared, Luke agrees to help him. Suddenly, the sound of a breaker echoes through the forest, and the man turns around, allowing Luke to see that the man is infected. The man tells Luke to start the boat, but Luke says there isn't enough fuel and tells him they can find it in the trunk of a nearby car. The man tells Luke to go with him to the car. Luke tells Willa to stay put and goes with the man to get the fuel. On the way, Luke outsmarts the man and rushes back to Willa with a gun. Willa asks him about the man. Luke says that the man got scared and ran away. Afterwards, he and Willa get on the boat and leave for Mercy Way. Shortly after, they reach an island, where they begin living for an unknown period of time. 1 year later, Willa and Luke are still living on this secluded island. Willa sees a seagull flying back into its nest in the cliff. She follows the bird and steals some eggs from the nest. She returns home, where Luke is chopping firewood. Willa shows him the eggs, but Luke scolds her for climbing the cliff and risking her life. Later that night, they make an omelet from the eggs and eat it, making do with whatever they find to eat. Willa asks her father if he believes Milla has met Kodiak. Luke says that she did. Willa urges Luke to tell her a story about Kodiak. Luke begins to narrate. This was when Kodiak lived the farthest north. He gathered firewood in preparation for the long, brutal winter ahead. With a single swing of his axe, Kodiak could cut down an entire tree. The day he was on his way to his camp, he heard something no one had ever heard before. He was the first to see the rift, and out of it crawled the breakers. However, he wasn't scared at all, and boldly fought the creatures. Luke tells Willa that bullets have no effect on the breakers. Willa asks Luke if he is sure that he isn't Kodiak, because he is as powerful as Kodiak and carries an axe just like him. Luke denies that he is Kodiak and asks her to eat dinner. The next day, Luke plants landmines around his house and sets up a tripwire so that anyone who comes near will trigger an explosion. There, they spot a pack of breakers a short distance away, roaming around in search of food. However, since the breakers can't see, Luke and Willa feel safe. Luke confides in Willa that the breakers share a brain-to-brain connection. Willa asks Luke why the breakers want to kill them when they haven't harmed them. Luke explains that the breakers think they want to take over their land, which is why they want to wipe them out. Later in the scene, Luke prepares Willa for combat against the breakers. While cleaning in the garden, Luke finds some strawberries, which he gives to Willa instead of eating them himself. Talking to her teddy bear, Willa goes outside for training. Moments later, she encounters a wandering girl near the shore. She immediately calls out to her, grabbing her attention. The girl runs towards Willa. Willa tells her to stop immediately because there are landmines ahead. Just in time, the girl stops, saving her life. The girl desperately embraces Willa and starts crying. Willa comforts her and takes her to a cave. There, she lights a fire and removes the darkness. The girl reveals that during the escape, she hit her head on the boat, which caused her head to bleed. The girl tells Willa that she was going to her grandmother's house by boat when the breaker attacked her and her family. Her father and brother ended up in the water. They didn't know that the breakers could swim. Willa calms her and tells her that she is safe now. Willa asks her name, and the girl says her name is Rosie. Willa gives Rosie some food, which she eats immediately. Willa tells her that she will bring her more food because she needs a lot of protein to survive. Rosie begs her not to leave, so Willa stays for a little longer. Willa has a dream where she is running in the forest and her mother, Milla, is calling out to her. Soon, Milla arrives and tells Willa to leave Luke and come with her. Willa asks her mother what will happen to her father. Milla says Luke can't fight anymore, but she can. Soon, it becomes clear that Milla is turning into a breaker. Willa wakes up in fear and, seeing Rosie asleep, leaves the cave. She quickly returns home, where, mistaking her for an intruder, Luke points his gun at Willa. However, this gun doesn't belong to Luke. It belongs to the man who was preventing Luke and Willa from escaping alone, and whose gun Luke had taken after killing him. Luke tells Willa that all their canned food is gone, and there is nothing left to eat in the garden either. They have almost nothing left to eat. Willa asks Luke about the gun, because she knows it belonged to that man. She tells Luke that they left everyone behind that night. Luke says they had no choice. Willa asks her father if all men are bad, because they can get infected, but not the women. Luke says that not all men are bad. Girls can also get infected, but it's just less likely. Then, Willa asks if he could kill someone. Luke says that if someone tries to hurt her or her mother, he will definitely kill them. Later, seeing Luke asleep at night, Willa quietly leaves a can of food behind, packs the rest into her bag, and heads toward the cave. She gives Rosie all the food she has. Rosie asks Willa if she is alone too. Willa answers, yes. Willa then shows Rosie a book filled with photographs from before the rift opened, before the breakers destroyed the earth. She gives Rosie her teddy bear and tells her his name is Kodiak. Rosie says Kodiak is dead because if he were alive and truly as powerful as everyone claims, they would have won by now. Willa responds that Kodiak can't do everything alone. He needs their help. She then tells Rosie stories of Kodiak's greatness, saying that Kodiak and his men killed every breaker that stood in their way. We thought we had won the battle. That's when they realized that the breakers were not only their enemy. The first infected men turned into a hybrid creature, and Kodiak showed us how to kill them. He crushed the brain. Hence, Kodiak isn't dead. He is still fighting for us and with us out there. Together, we will close the rift. After clearing up Rosie's misconceptions, Willa tells her she will be back with more food. Back in the forest, Luke continues Willa's training. During a mock fight, Luke suddenly collapses, fainting from lack of food. Seeing this, Willa panics and realizes the truth. Luke hasn't eaten anything, sacrificing his own meals so she could survive. Luke tells her that they have to save their ration until Milla returns. Willa asks, what if she doesn't? Luke tells her not to say so. He later gives her his sword, saying that she is now worthy. The next day, Willa leaves the house with her sword, under the pretext of checking the rabbit snares. Willa reaches the cave, but to her shock, Rosie isn't inside. Willa finds her bear and hat in a tattered condition. Suddenly, she notices someone passing behind her. Willa goes to investigate and finds Rosie, who has now transformed into a hybrid breaker. In fact, during her escape across the sea by boat, Rosie had been infected by a breaker's attack. Rosie lets out a loud scream, which acts as a signal to other breakers. Soon, she attacks the terrified Willa. Willa's training proves useless. However, before Rosie can harm her, Luke arrives and pierces his sword through Rosie's head. Luke carefully checks Willa to see if she has any scratches, but thankfully, she is unharmed. Luke tells Willa that Rosie's scream sent a signal to its kind, as breakers and hybrids are interconnected. Meanwhile, a pack of hybrids and breakers swim to the island, having sensed their prey. Luke decides to escape to the south, so he and Willa head toward the hidden boat. Exhausted, they sit beneath a tree to rest. A short while later, their sleep is shattered by the distant sounds of the breakers. Luke and Willa immediately rush toward the bay. However, Luke struggles to keep up, his injured leg slowing him down. Suddenly, a hybrid attacks him. Willa leaps across the ditch and charges in to separate them. She slashes at the hybrid's head, injuring it badly, but it still doesn't stop. Seizing the moment, Luke crushes its head, killing it. After this, Luke and Willa continue to reach the way. But soon, Luke gets tired and collapses to the ground. Just then, a loud roar echoes through the forest, starting Luke and Willa. Willa tells Luke to get up, but he can't. So, he tells her that he had trained her for this very moment, and that she can do it. A hybrid creature rushes towards Willa, but Willa, with a single powerful strike, severs the hybrid's head from its body, saving both her and Luke's lives. She then helps Luke reach the shore, where they find their boat. Luke asks Willa to go down the slope and start the boat. Then, he shows her a bite mark on his neck, revealing that he had been bitten by a hybrid creature during the clash. Willa breaks down in tears, and with a heavy heart rushes down to the boat, while Luke decides to clash with the army of breakers and hybrids. Willa barely pushes the boat into the water. Meanwhile, Luke turns into a hybrid. At that moment, Milla arrives with reinforcements. With a powerful strike from Willa, the movie comes to an end. You were watching a recap of the movie World Breaker 2025. Thank you for watching, and enjoy our other videos as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.